In progress. Oh Lord Christ Almighty, we're back.
Woo! We are back. We've got coffee.
Yeah, you guys.
And
Well, it's like what 7 p.m. for you. What are you doing?
7:30. It is early.
Early. All right. I guess it's okay for coffee.
I drink coffee all day.
What I had to
I
do.
will be drinking coffee at midnight.
Okay. What I had to do is grab this to get this guy. So it's like a bunch of like different packets of filter coffee, and I just ripped a bunch open, put it into a normal filter, and put it into my coffee machine because I didn't like go get the regular coffee thing, and
Okay.
because where I live now, like our main grocery store closes, doesn't open on Sunday, so it's like I
Gotcha.
either got to drive 30 minutes somewhere else and pay toll, or that. So yeah, this is really interesting conversation for post training. Welcome, folks. Dan, where have we been for the last? Oh God, what? When was the last time we did a post training? I think it was like 6 months ago.
Dude, it was a while ago. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
After that last training, it's been good. Yeah, definitely.
very good. At last training 6 months ago, and we did a podcast, and then I moved, and then I was kind of just barely was functioning on like survival levels only. Um, and then I'm okay again. So we can do post training again. Hooray!
Yay.
Yay! So Dan, tell us of how training has been of recent days.
Training has been slow. And one of the main reasons for that for me is um, a lot of my student base just recently have been out. Holidays, COVID. COVID kind of came and swathed like through half of my student base. And so classes have been pretty light, which means I haven't had really a whole lot of people to throw around or practice with. So it's been mostly solo training. I got a little bit of cardio in this morning, and then did a little bit of push hands this afternoon with a new friend. But yeah, beyond that, it's been mostly just me, and so hopefully coming up in the next, by the end of the month, things will be more back to normal, and I'll be able to throw people around again. So hopefully.
That's nice. That's nice. I wish I had that. I'm between a garage, a tiny gym room that's 30 minutes away from my house, and I don't know, now Snowden Road. So those are the only kind of three. Like it's either inconvenient or really cold. So is where I'm at now. But
So in your little town, there's no dojo?
no.
That stinks.
Welcome to Japan, where it doesn't work like that. Like
That's
the all right, no, this isn't your problem. This is a perception issue. Dojos are like communities. Very rarely will you have many people like actually have like their own thing because
yeah, yeah,
because in Japan they believe in public facilities essentially
yeah.
being free.
Right.
So there's like this school. Some of the places where I work around, like they have decent facilities, and so where people go to teach stuff like kendo or judo, they'll just use those facilities, and they won't really feel the need to do much more else.
Right.
Um, I know there's one guy around here who done karate, but beyond that now. So, but as I'm on the mainland, I can actually go venture out to places, but because of COVID and whatnot, and adjustments and things of that nature, to quote our governor, there I haven't really been able to do that. But
Right.
as it is the new year, I'm hoping within hopefully this Unicron thing blows through really quickly, and I don't want to. My grandparents apparently recently caught it, and it's been like it, a lot more highly contagious, but apparently it's also not as
Yeah, it's
bad.
not as brutal. It's pretty mild from what I tell, or from what I can tell.
So maybe we're at like
So
Corona half life at this point.
yeah,
So
and so many people are vaccinated now. So like, if they get it, it doesn't really do anything. So little sniffles, maybe. So.
Yeah. Hopefully, this is where we're starting to see at least a normalization effect, in some way, shape, or form. So, because this is what everyone was here about us giving our expert medical advice on stuff.
Yes. Well, don't you know a martial arts expert means you're an expert at everything.
Yeah, you can tell people
Don't
that you
you
don't have to
know?
worry about COVID. Apparently,
No, somebody likes to share. Like I've seen it, I don't know how many times on Facebook. Somebody shares this graphic and it says what you think you're paying for, and it says karate lessons, and what you're really paying for, and it says like personal trainer, therapist, blah blah blah. Like I
we
am
do
not
it
a
all.
therapist. I am not qualified to be a therapist. Please don't think that I'm your therapist. There are people who actually go to college and get degrees for that. Like I hate karate martial artists who think that just because they can teach you how to throw some sort of technique, that means that they are qualified to do everything else. I don't think that.
I don't know. I mean, I think karate is like very cheap therapy to a degree.
Yeah,
Like
but so is a punching bag. Like I think that, but it may be therapy, but you are not a therapist.
true. That is true. That is true. You are not a life coach.
You're
You
not
are
a
not a
life
spiritual
coach.
mentor.
No.
Though I did have one person in one of my uh, work functions tell me you're not just an English teacher. You are also a spiritual leader. Recently, and I was like, no, I'm not. I just said because we were like talking about strengths and weaknesses, and I was like, what are your weaknesses? Well, you can always turn this into a strength. Think about it. And they like there was just two students in the class, and they were like, I'm just writing what I was saying down. I'm like, don't take it that seriously. It's just talking.
Yeah.
I wrote a comment on like the class, and I was like, what? This is how cults start. So I just try to call people. Hey guys, let's. I'm not the Quizon Hatterath over here or whatever.
Yes, I'm gonna be a Johnist.
No,
I'm gonna become a follower of John, and I'm gonna get rid of all my belts because that's the way it should be.
that's a wrong. That's a wrong podcast. Even though we essentially did the same thing.
Dang it!
It's the same thing. Essentially, we're effectively doing the same show, just with a video format that also gets put on an RSS feed. Which I we'll mention this later on, but Dan's copying me, and we'll mention this later on as is a yet to be named podcast is coming out.
Yeah, yet to be named.
Yet to be
I'm
named.
not sure what I'm gonna call it.
All right. Well, I am hourly if you need advice on that. So fair enough. Fair enough. What are we talking about? We're yeah, training for me has been like I was able to actually get in the gym last week, thankfully. But where I live now, it's also like mountains and mountains of snow. Like we had like nonstop snow for like 4 days. So I was getting all my like shovel muscles in and impressing the female folk with my ability to like throw snow, I guess. And like I don't know, we all kind of live around the same area, and so a lot of us who live in the same apartment building, there's just this like the snow truck will come around like every so often, and just like clear out a whole parking lot, and so cleared out the parking lot. But when they do that, they don't really account for like doorways. So the doorway was like had this like wall of snow in front of it, and so I'm like Kool-Aid Punch man smash and just spent like a half hour digging through ice and snow so people could get in the apartment. So that's been my training recently.
Yeah. That's funny.
Am I heard? No, go back to. Oh, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right, cool.
Well, that's good. That's good. That's good workout.
It can be. It's also like apparently I was got in this fight with my settle a fight with a family member for me. Shoveling snow, will it cause a heart attack? Apparently, a family member of mine was like, "It causes heart attacks. Don't shovel the snow too hard." And I was like, I don't think so.
Maybe if you have a really weak heart.
Yeah, or yeah, and that's what I'm like. You're using your body in the way you never use your body when you shovel snow. It's like using your arms, legs, and core. What do you think I do in karate half the time?
Right.
So
Dangerous. You gotta be careful with yourself.
yeah, we're kind of going on a. I don't know. You're not exactly from. You're more of a Central PA guy. I'm more of a
Eastern PA.
well. Oh yeah.
Western PA.
For me, that's always been the central. That's always been central. Like it's either you're either Philly, you're either Philly or
States in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in the central they don't say yins. Pittsburgh we say I'm from the south now. I say y'all. But Pittsburgh people say yins.
Fair enough. But okay. So we got our I don't know, roots back call back to our roots out of the way. But you had mentioned something that leads us to, I guess, is going to be our default topic because we had something set up and kind of fell through, unfortunately. But I think this is kind of best way to look at it is Facebook Dad Karate, and this has come out of a discussion of the Pinions, which was going to be something we were going to talk about in much more detail. But you recently had a slight interaction around this, and it said you'd mentioned two things. You got into a mudslinging contest with somebody and won.
I mean,
you dropped facts.
You get to a point where the other person has the option to say, okay, that's what that that's what that means. Okay, you have this on it's written down. This is from 1926. That's a long time ago. Okay, that this should mean something, right? It's close. Right. It's close to the time when Itosu was actually creating these forms. I mean, there's a lot of weight to that. When you start looking at other quotes that were used in the argument on the other side, none of them actually hold that much weight. So the other ones are just, you can extrapolate information based on your own opinion based on those other sources. But my source has nothing to do with my opinion. It's just, this is what somebody who was very close to Itosu said. You can either accept that he said that and take it for what it's worth or not. So I don't think I won or lost or anything. I just think that it was put there and I think did a good job.
I would agree with this. I would agree with that. I mean, the issue becomes whether or not the extrapolation people want to make out of something goes like way out of the way, or it's not being used in kind of a, I don't want to say proper way, but like it's just, I don't know. They're making a claim for A and then doing B, which doesn't make sense.
Fallacy. Yeah.
Well, and like, why are you doing that? Like, well, like you can just say like, I've been doing this thing for a while, been doing this kata for a while. I had this idea on it. I think kind of like if you set it up like that, I don't know why anyone would get angry about that. I don't know why anyone would like be like, "Hey, that's a good idea." Hey, that's a bad idea. It's about where it gets from me. Then also,
the other thing.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, the other thing that one of the big things for me too was the argument was almost moot, like the original argument, because kind of the main reason that the argument was made was because I guess there are claims that because these forms could have been designed for children or to teach children, therefore they don't have any functional, or they don't have any, application. They don't have any, like, self-defense, physical, functional application in them. But those two they're not mutually exclusive. Just because you teach something for kids doesn't mean that they don't have any functional application. So that makes the original argument, in my opinion, moot.
Yeah.
It's not even worth having because the argument is false, or you know what I mean? Like, it's built on on a bad premise. So, I'm losing you.
Stay there. Okay, good.
There you are.
Mic functions work. Okay, good.
Does that make sense? So, like,
that makes perfect sense because it's like you teach a kid to punch. Oh, you just taught it to a kid. They're not really gonna learn how to punch. Huh? In what way are you teaching like a kid to not punch correctly, like from a form?
We only teach kids to punch with limp wrists. Like, what? Nobody's gonna do that.
Yeah, and even worse, where it's like, where Zoom is not taking my mic. Yes, okay. Thank you for informing me, Zoom. He's been telling me it's like the USB is connected. It's like, yes, I know. Thank you for informing me. There's a late Christmas present. Someone can get me a new setup. Yeah, I mean this because look, like, because I want to kind of save the actual Pinon discussion for the quote unquote Pinon discussion, but like mini Pinon discussion, like Pinons came like from karate, like they're from karate people creating just an easier way of learning something. Doesn't mean it doesn't work. Like, yeah,
there are no new moves in them. They're all taken from already karate forms.
Yeah. So
why? I don't understand.
Well, and like this is where it's like you were stating this when we were kind of talking before we started recording, where it's like people need to validate like their reasons for their points because karate needs to be this super special awesome thing that's not just a practical physical exercise. Like I don't this you said this a lot more eloquently than I can ever.
Yeah, so there are people, a lot of people, and I was this person a long time ago, and there's still part of me that is like this, but our value, our worth is so intrinsically attached to karate because we've put so much time into it. We've devoted so much of our lives to it. We've devoted so much of our mind and our physical, mental development to this thing. So it becomes intrinsically attached to our ego. And if somebody says your karate is bad, what happens psychologically is you're no longer telling me my karate is bad. You're telling me I'm bad. That becomes a problem. And so if somebody says, you've spent 5 years learning this Pinon form, they were made for kids. What the heck? You don't even need them. What you're doing is you're telling me that I don't need me. There's a part of me that I don't need.
Oh no.
And this is where people start to get upset. And that is scary and unhealthy.
Well, I understand people getting upset by being told like this part of you is irrelevant, or saying that like, oh, what you're doing is like outdated or whatever. Right? Yeah, I get that.
Yeah,
but at the same time, it's like who are you listening to stating these things, right? It's like when you get like people like the Joe Rogan people who are like, people are just doing forms. What are they just doing? They're just doing dances. Which I'm like, okay, like when it comes to like, I watch this thing on the Olympics and stuff. I'm like, yeah, it totally makes sense because it's like your people are taking forms are not meant to be something. It might offend some people we know, but forms are not meant to be something to be shown outside the house. Like, in my opinion, like you can show people the forms or show people doing the forms. And yes, I say this like being a guy who has forms of myself on video on the internet, but it's like they're not really like meant to go like be seen for anything more than what they are, um, which is just like an exercise, a blueprint, encyclopedia, like
Something
all
for
these
you to
kind of
practice at home
yeah,
if you
exactly,
don't have a partner.
bingo, solo. So beyond that, um, like it doesn't really matter which one they are or which way you do them. There might be more optimal ways of doing them. There might be, oh, you're like arching your back for no reason. Hey, don't do that. Hey,
Right,
don't,
right.
or like you might have like a little fix here and there. But it's like when people go into like, because I know people who hammer this for years, where it's just like Beyonds were for kids, Beyonds were for kids, Beyonds were just for kids. Okay, that's cool. What? There's probably a reason for that, and because it's just there's five of them, they're easy to throw into a curriculum, and then it was easy to make for graded school kids. Um,
Yeah. And it's easy to start even adults who like, right, arguably Itosu was probably one of the first Okinawans to teach karate to the public people.
arguably, or at least
Arguably,
well recorded. I guess
well recorded. And so if you try to teach karate to people who have different jobs, they're educators or they work in an office or whatever, like they don't have a whole lot of time to train, to do, a form for very, very long. It's easy to teach them the first Pinan form.
Yeah.
That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
You get plenty there. There's plenty in the first Beyond form that's like really good for self defense, like
Yeah.
generally speaking, and like I mean,
Yeah.
you literally break down there's two moves in Beyond that you can just easily teach someone and be like, all right, this is easy for self defense. Somebody's punching you, you do this.
Uh-huh.
Some people want to get like far too into like the movements being meaning like this is a throw and this is a catch and da 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 da. Like, all right, whatever.
Right.
You want to go down that road, fine. But it's like it's pretty simple and easy. So it's like, but then you get like the Facebook dads, and
Mm-hmm.
where I feel like this is slight generational. I don't want to get into like slight generationalism, but it's like they learned things a certain way and they wanted it to be this way, and for whatever reason they have in their head that like this is the one traditional way of doing it, as opposed to just this is the way I learned it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where the wires get crossed. So you have on one hand your situation where it was somebody probably going in that direction with it, and then another hand people who are like, this is pointless, useless, trash. It's just for kids. Don't worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
How you reconcile the two is kind of where I for me is just like, all right, yeah, just do them. Find
Sure.
out what you can do with
Sure.
them. That's how I
Yeah.
approach.
If you want to do multiple versions, do multiple versions. Enjoy. Have fun. There's a lot of different, kinds of juice. They all taste good. Like, I don't know, but I think. Do you think that it's more of a Western thing, to have this combat between the styles, or do you think that started in?
I mean, I'm not Okinawan. I'm a dude from Philadelphia who's lived in Japan for a little while.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I know that here, that is very much an American thing. American karate is very much us versus them, and it always has been. And competitions have been built around that for decades. I mean, I grew up being told that literally that Okinawan and Japanese karate was inferior to Korean karate.
Okay.
Right? Like, that is absolutely bonkers. But that is the mentality. That's the mentality.
Well, and here's the thing. I got that inference about Japanese karate and Korean karate from Okinawan Americans doing Okinawan karate. Now, maybe there's some Maybe there's some like slight justification for that, because you got a lot of people who like who had not been in who had come over to kind of the schools I was working with, and they were like, "Oh, this is more practical. This is more what I'm looking for." Ergo, what I did before was pointless. What I did before was useless, or they had bad experiences, or something like that. And I think that's probably what goes on between the three, in that regard. In I don't want to speak for Okinawa because I've never lived there. I've only been there, but at least I can say for Japan, it people go in and just do their thing. It's very much like the states where it's like, you'll have the people who know what's going on. You'll have the people who know the styles and stuff. But I mean, majority of people, like 99% of the time, will just be like, "Oh yeah, I do this. Oh, you do it differently. Oh, okay, it's different." I literally remember one time. I can say this now because I don't work there anymore. So one time I was working in a kindergarten, and their kindergarten teacher had like been a Shotokan person, and she had taught the kids. I think it was like their Heian Nidan or Heian Shodan. I forget. It's the one where that looks like Pinyon Nidan. I think Heian Shodan. And
Heian Shodan is Pinyon Nidan.
um,
Switched.
I've stopped caring. I've given up.
Only the first two. Then the rest are the same.
Thanks, Funakoshi. Way to give us healthcare. But anyway, I went through it with them, and I forget which one it was. But I started doing kind of my version of it, but I was like doing it with the entire class because I had the whole class there, and so I was like, "All right, guys, karate time," and they were just like, "I thought this was English time." It's like, "No, we're doing karate now," and it's like, "You all know this, let's do it." And they were just like, "Okay, Mr. John," and then we started doing the form. Like, they were like, "That's different." I'm like, "Yeah, this is the way I learned it," and they're like, "Oh, really?" And then like they got over it, and then it was lunchtime, and like to me, like that little microcosm of a thing that happened, like with 6-year-olds who are like, "Oh, Mr. John did something different," and like they just moved on and ate lunch, like. But it's like if you extrapolate this into like what goes on with people on the internet, it's like that's wrong because and it's the keyboard warriors who are like that's wrong because this person did the thing then and now it's not the same thing. Go have lunch, like like get over it. It's not worth fighting over.
No, it is not. No, it is not.
I don't even remember the form I did with these kids, but like they were happy. They were just fine to like they got to do karate during English time. And like the teacher was like, "Oh, you do it that way?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's the way I kind of learned it," and like explained like I was like, "Yeah, the thing is for me was always like it's always practicality, and so maybe these positions aren't as good as or as practical as those positions." I walked through it with her, and she was like, "Oh, I've never seen that before." I was like, "Yeah, we ate lunch." And a story,
right.
But I can relate because when I was younger and when I had come from one school and gone to another and saw, okay, maybe that position works a little better in practicality. That time I was very much like, that position's so much better. What are all these other people doing? Just stop doing this thing because it's wrong. I totally understand that because I was like that too. I think we have similar experiences with that.
Yeah, very similar experiences. I mean, like, I was lucky enough for about a week back in college. I got to hang out with a Wudang priest, and I got to train with him for a little bit throughout the week, and he didn't speak a whole lot of English, but one of the things that he said over and over and over again was, "Why you do wrong?" Like over and over and over again. He would throw me on the ground. He would go, "Why do you do wrong?" And I'd get me up, and then we'd do it again. Why do you do wrong? And then like eventually I figured out what he meant. Like he was trying to show me how to do it correct, and I would always do it wrong, and I would fall. And then it was just these tiny, and it ended up being tiny little subtle changes in my structure that would make it so that he couldn't throw me in the same way. And I went, "Oh," and he was like, "Huh," and that was kind of that. He was the first person really to, and I was like, I was a second degree black belt at the time, right? And so to have this tiny little, Chinese guy throw me around was very, didn't make you happy, right? But that was like the first time where I thought to myself, maybe what I have been doing was not as good as I thought it was. And yeah, I was angry for a little bit, I was a little salty, but I mean, like, my current teacher is really good at kind of saying, it wasn't good, but that's not the fault of your system. So don't be upset with the system. Just fix it, be better, and move on.
Yeah.
And
go have lunch.
That's awesome. Go to lunch. Yeah.
Yeah. Go fix it. Yeah. After you're done, go train. Like.
Yeah.
And yeah. I feel that's not. That is the job of a mentor to do when that isn't really done that well. And when you have public figures who, like, I don't know, I don't care who I'm gonna make mad, I'm gonna say this thing. Like, okay, then, like, you realize, like, you're just encouraging a less constructive behavior among people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. To not actually engage, right? It's not like I have my disagreements
creating
with
Robbie Keane's. That's what it is.
Robbie Keane.
Right. Johnny's kid.
Oh, right. Whatever. I don't know. Like, we're gonna talk about that show.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. We can talk about it. It's like, I guess we're creating Robbie Keane's. I don't know. Like,
we're creating these poor kids. I think, and that's
saying we're all Johnny Lawrence. Like, we're all just drinking Coors.
We are all Johnny Lawrences, and we're all Danny LaRusso's. All of us.
All of us.
Some way, shape, or form.
It's the two wolves inside all of us. Right.
Exactly. And they all think the other side is crap, and they're all stupid, and they just need to. They need to go. What are we doing? How old are we?
Yeah. Like, how long is this for? Why are we milking this franchise?
Why? Why? Oh, you mean we're gonna put these kids at danger just because we think the other karate is not as good? Like, anyway.
What's going on with all the other karate systems in like the valley? That's my thing. It's like, literally, it's only like one, like, strip mall karate joint, and then, like, this guy's backyard. That's literally, like, when you get to the tournament, it's like you see other people. It's like, why are they fighting each other? Why isn't there, like, more of the karate wars? Like, there are such better, like, franchises to do this with. Like, what is it? The Last Dragon. Like, what? Like, I did a whole podcast on that one. Like, where's our reboot with that? All right.
Yeah.
Or LA Fights, or like what was it? The one with the Taekwondo club that was also a rock band. Like, when are we getting that? Oh yeah. You don't know about that one? I'll look it up for you later. It's required watching.
Gosh, I thought the only movie with Taekwondo was that stupid Best of the Best movie that was horrible.
Best of the Best. Why don't we remake that? Why don't we turn that into a TV show?
Movie. Oh my god.
Yeah, but you know what? It's great. Like, it's also, like, wonderful cheese. Like, this is what I mean. Like, we literally had, like...
Probably the only Korean martial artist who hates that movie.
Yeah,
like,
but,
I see it all the time come up on my feed. Best of the best! Wow, yeah, Taekwondo, Kung Soo Do, because Ho Sik Pak is in it or whatever. And I just name dropped. Take that out. He probably will sue me.
What's he gonna do? Watch it? He's got to watch this first.
Anyway, so I just despise that movie. It is so bad. There's no, like, oh gosh, it's so. Anyway.
Yeah, but it's like, we're not making it's like, this is another issue where it's like, you mean, like, you were talking about, like, having attachment to ego, right? And, like, how we're always talking about, like, the kind of, like, general mantra we've always seen with martial arts is, like, detach from your ego, don't have any ego, walk in with no ego. You're always going to be walking in with that ego. That ego is going to become the martial arts in a lot of ways. But it's like, we're so, now with traditional martial arts, it's so much like retro looking, past looking. It's not
Mhm.
really future looking. Where
Mhm.
like the only thing we can really attach ourselves to is like this like simulacra of like what once people understood martial arts to look like, which was never ever meant to be taken seriously at all. So when I get like shit for like people being like you're too like postmodern or like you're not serious enough or whatever, and I'm like, yeah, okay, let's look at what these guys are doing. Like, what are these people doing? They're not doing anything. They're just looking at old '80s movies and going, that was fun. I'm like, yeah. So is this just karate and like tongues and like all the traditional martial arts? And, yeah, that was fun. Like
Yeah.
because we're all afraid to actually, get in the dirt with some like boxer guys or whatever. Like,
Yeah, very true. I had somebody not too long ago, maybe about a year ago, and he had mentioned to me that every time that he's with the higher ups in his group, in his organization, they all talk about the good old days. Oh, the good old days were great. The good old days were great. And so, I asked them, I said, so how many of them are talking about now? What's going on now? Are they doing anything now? Is now better than before? Because if now is not better than the good old days, then your group is not getting better. They're getting worse.
they're getting grayer and they're older and they're not gonna literally. And we've had this conversation. I think it's like if you're not gonna have kids, adopt. Like you know what I mean? Like you gotta like it literally like you have to you have to create. And this is so hard for people. And we've kind of done this a little here before, but it's like you have to be able to create something for people to
The
experience.
white one.
The white one, right?
Sorry. My
So
mom was asking me if she could unplug the tea kettle so she could plug in her phone.
it's all right. It's all right. Family is always welcome. This is what I mean. Bingo. Exactly. You did exactly the thing I told you to do. Without even 13, what is it 20 years before I said it, right? Um, and you see these guys, they gray, and then they're just like, oh, well, why isn't it like that anymore? Well, because you're not actively working to create that. And maybe those times weren't actually as good as you thought they were. So now we're just
Not cool. Or what you did was or felt great, but may not be as great because maybe you're trying to teach it and you couldn't teach it either because it wasn't that great or you weren't very great at it or you didn't understand it well enough so you weren't able to teach it well enough, or I mean, I don't know, there's lots of different reasons, but I just think that we are as martial artists, as traditional martial artists, I hate that word, but classical, traditional, whatever you want to call it, if you have some sort of you know past lineage or past something that you're trying to pass on, too many people are focusing backwards and not forwards. And
yeah.
there's a couple guys that I know that are doing that, doing both relatively well, and they're teaching really good things, but they're teaching those really good things, and maybe this is a good thing. They're teaching those really good things because their past wasn't very good. They didn't get what they wanted, and so they're modifying things and changing things, and they're able to teach what they need. And I think that's fine. That's great.
going back to the beginning of our conversation. What do you think that was? What Itosu was doing?
Precisely.
Like,
Yeah.
what do you think those guys were doing 100 years ago?
Exactly.
Like it's funny you said it was like a book from 1929. Like that's like 7 years. That's gonna be 100 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like
It
that's
was 26, so even less.
yeah.
Yeah.
So like, I think that's just we need to shake off the idea that this is ever like held longer than it actually has. We have to shake off the idea that replicating the past is a good thing, and creating something new is a bad thing. You started off saying like people start from creating things that they don't like something from nothing, right? Well, that's what everyone does to a degree,
Mhm.
but like that's fine. But as long as we're not like no, are like creating stupid arguments, creating conflict where there is none, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as long as we're not doing that, I think we'll be better off for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree with you. Like one thing that I really love about Fujin TV, what this has done for me personally is it has given me the ability to talk to guys like you who are not in my my what do you call
Periphery.
group of martial artists that I would normally talk to. You're not a Tang Soo Do person, you're not a Korean martial arts person. So like this is I think we definitely need more of, because if we don't train with each other and we don't train outside of our box and we don't look at the way other people do it and go, oh, well that's kind of how I do it, but it's different. Why do you do it that way? And then you go, well, because of this. And I go, oh, cool. And then I have the choice to go back to my students and go, okay, ready, and do this. Now, in this other style, they do it like this, and then you can give your students more in a broader picture, and you can extrapolate and look at like that. I think needs to be done more rather than we do it like this. Don't do it any other way. Like that's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's like we're both we're proliferating out and kind of also kind of retreating in to a degree. But I think the more we kind of like make, as you were saying, like make the connections and can kind of and can better help each other get to where we want to go, rather than just kind of creating those barriers is better. So go out to lunch after.
Exactly. Hold on a second. What? Nimue, come here. AM2. Oh no! Did you already? Did we not get any of that? Oh, now your mic is off. There it is. Oh, there it is. Nope.
Wait, there we go.
Yeah.
All right, I can't believe that happened, but all right.
But
I thought I hit recording, stop recording, pause. Okay, no, I see what I did wrong. Oh no! Look, folks, we had to stop for a moment because of a dog issue, and then now we lost a very important part of the podcast. No, we didn't. It's fine.
we solved world hunger.
We solved world hunger, but no one heard it.
No one heard it. Yeah.
We cured at least 5 diseases, but we forgot.
Yep. And I don't remember what it was either, so we can't even go back. Lost for time.
It's all good. So,
Maybe,
Dan, what are you venturing towards this week in terms of training?
So, this month, the theme really has been really foundational things. I've got quite a few brand new students at the school, so it's required me to kind of go back and really look at some fundamental things, and some of them have come from a different system. Anyway, some of them have come from a different system, so going back to fundamentals and making sense of it in a way that allows other people to learn it without any trouble, right? So that has been my recent teaching struggles, not struggles, but theme. So training has been on myself, really, really basic fundamental things, and going back because I'm always a believer that if you can't explain something to a child, you don't understand it well enough. So I'm going back and really remembering all the little itty bitty things from the beginner forms and basics and just footwork, like basic footwork. Yeah, so that's where my theme is this month. At the end of the month, I'm doing a breaking workshop. We're just going to break a bunch of boards, so that will set off my theme for February.
Cool, awesome. Yeah, I when I got back in the gym, this is like the one thing I was thinking of was like, how do you act? Like, if I were to start teaching again, how would I actually do it? How would I actually approach this now, as opposed to now? It's been almost 3 years since I've taught somebody karate.
Mm. Mm.
Since the last time I've actually taught a karate. Like, not, I don't know. Like, I've
Yeah.
never been one to be like, I want to do a Zoom class. I'm not like big into doing that.
Yeah.
I'd rather be on the ground with somebody.
Yeah.
So I'm always thinking about like, if I were to start this again and teach it, how would I do it? So maybe I'll get an
That's a
opportunity
good
sooner than
question.
later.
Yeah, that's a good question. And, I think that I wish more people would ask that question, even if they're already teaching. Like if you sit, because sometimes I do that. Sometimes, I look at my curriculum and I say, if I were to start over, brand spanking new slate, new school, brand new students, nobody that has any of the trappings of what they have right now. How would I teach that? And it's a good thing to do. It's a good mental exercise.
Oh, and it's also trying to clear out like, all right, what should I do? What should be the
Mm,
training that I do? And then like, how
mm-hmm.
would I impart that to somebody else? And
Yeah.
it's a work in progress, to be honest. I think it always is going to be, but for me, it's like breaking away from things I've done before. But
Mm-hmm.
you need to have you need to travel down a road before you can lead somebody else down it. Otherwise, you're going down blind. So it's like,
Right.
how much longer can I go before? Am I just going to back up to things I don't want to back up to, but I'm inevitably going to have to because that's all that I have? Not. So that's where I'm at. Cool.
Cool.
You want to plug anything before we get out of here?
Well, if you don't know, both John and I are both on Bujin TV.
Am I?
So if you're not subscribed there, do so. Are you still on Bujin TV or still?
I'm still on Bujin.
Yeah.
I'm just like, wait, we're plugging Bujin. We're still plugging this? Okay.
Why not?
Of course. Because we can put it on the Facebook page, and James can't get angry at me for it.
Exactly.
Bingo.
Yeah. You mentioned I was going to do I was going to have a podcast at some point. I will have my own podcast. I'm working on it.
I gave him a.
Oops, try that again. I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right, good. I gave him a bit of a taste, folks, and now he wants in on this podcast action.
I know. It's fun. It's fun.
It is fun, isn't it?
I enjoy talking and having conversations. So many, it's like, I've had phone calls with people and I'm like, man, I really wish I could go back and listen to that again. Yes, you can. You just need to do it in this way. So yeah, totally.
To a degree. Yeah.
To a degree.
Well, we will support you in any way, shape, or form possible, even if that means absorbing you. Because we're too big to fail, apparently, because no one listens to us. So it's like no one can cancel us. Not yet, at least. So all good, sir. Any help you require from us, just let us know. Let me know, I guess. I don't know who this us is. We are the podcast.
Next time.
What?
Next time, Sal. I miss Sal.
I miss him too. Unfortunately, we missed him this week, or this time. So hopefully, I don't know. I don't want to ever tell people like this is when we're gonna do things because it's like, like we're doing this semi-amateurishly or semi-professionally. So it'll happen when it happens.
Yeah.
So
when you get a notification, guess what?
Yeah. It's there. That's the wonders of the internet too, because I think a lot of people are like schedules, and then the internet just turned into you and said algorithm, and then they just decided to fight, and I don't know. No child was conceived from that marriage, unfortunately. Cool. Well, everyone, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and Dan, thank you as always for being on with me, and hope we get to do this again sooner than later.
Definitely.
All right. Yeah.
Peace.
Later.